Good afternoon. My name is Onepeg MG, and this is the Tarkov news for December 27th, 2018. Now, really quickly, this is going to be a combination between the news, a couple of things that I need to correct from yesterday, as well as a podcast summary from the Russian podcast that occurred this morning into this afternoon, at least for me, because I'm in Eastern Standard Time. This is probably going to run 20-25 minutes. I apologize in advance for the long duration, but we got to report on it. So, as always, if you guys would be so kind as to consider subscribing to the channel should you find the content valuable, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as please consider clicking the links in the description below that will take you to Sneaky Russian 007's Twitch channel, who is the translator for all of this podcast info and is a fantastic human being. Dude, I love you. Thank you so much. As well as my Twitter, Discord, and Twitch channels themselves. I try to be as extremely active as I possibly can be throughout the community, through all of these different platforms. I would ask that you please come and have conversations with me on all of them. I promise I will do my level best to at least respond to whatever it is that you have to say. Okay, on to the news. So, yesterday I released a video that had to do with key unlock locations and extraction points, and I missed one of each of those. In my last video, I neglected to mention the security arsenal key unlock location. I know exactly where that is. I just don't have the key. I had meant to include at least to show the door, but I did not. I will fix that in a future release, possibly after this weekend, because I'm going out of town tomorrow. Also, there was a thing that I neglected regarding the vent extraction. Just as a quick PSA, you need to wear an MBSS backpack or smaller in order to be able to exit that location. If you're wearing a backpack larger than an MBSS bag, you will not fit. There is no other variable that matters. It's just that simple. Whether or not that is a system that I agree with, I would rather see it be tied to like the number of cells that you have in terms of your inventory space and take the backpack out of it. That's pretty much all I've got to say. Okay. Regarding news, insurance from the labs was a thing that a lot of people found to be an issue. There was a lot of complaints regarding the insurance and the inability to get your stuff back from the labs unless you insured it via Prapor. This has since been hotfixed, but not in the way that you think. Labs is not supposed to have insurance returns at all. In a tweet that BSG released yesterday, they said, "We need to mention that the labs location doesn't have an insurance return. This is a secret concealed location. There are no usual scavs over there, plus roaming raiders." I guess this does make sense in terms of the canon of the game. It's a secret hidden laboratory. There isn't going to be just people wandering around that work for these dudes to try and like retrieve your stuff. It makes sense. Maybe that will change, but we'll see. Okay. Nikita also said during the course of the podcast, which is one thing I will mention out of context, that for this mechanic, it was an intended thing and it was supposed to be a surprise. They wanted to have the community react to the shock of it. So you got trolled. I don't know if that's true or if it's just them saving face, but it does make sense. Okay, now on to the podcast. So I've broken this down categorically as opposed to chronologically, just because I think the flow will be better for everyone. So, 0.11 patch and the labs. There was a big patch, a bunch of new guns. They wanted a hardcore element in the place like the labs. There was the issue talking about bots one-tapping people through walls and doors that was mentioned by people in the community, and the HP pool of the bots being an issue. Nikita said that they're tweaking it, and it will be possible to one-tap the bots, but you should be bringing in high-end gear sets. In the release, the labs will be closed off, and it will be something that you have to find in order to get access to the labs, like an item or a device or devices, in order to be able to gain access. Minor things that they missed or skipped in terms of what they had wanted to implement were mentioned, like character customization. 70% of what they wanted to have done was implemented in the patch, but obviously not everything. Some things were skipped, like the SVD, right? Because they were worried that it would be game breaking. They weren't going to have enough time to work out all the kinks. Now, obviously, there's still bugs, but all in all, man, I gotta say, I'm having a blast with the new map. I love the new content that they released. The addition to customs was pretty sick. I haven't even gotten around to playing with Killa yet, because I've just been running around labs. It's been so damn fun. Hard, but fun. So regarding leaks, next categorical thing. There's a new trader coming named Leshy that's being added soon. This person is going to be a counterpart for Therapist. He is going to have advanced medical items. The tasks that he has are going to be survivalist oriented and themed. With an advanced insurance system, Nikita said that he has a lot of ideas surrounding it. I don't know what that means. He didn't really elaborate. In addition to this, there was an idea thrown around as it being possible to work for some of the traders. For instance, get into labs one time a day to do a specific task. This sounds an awful lot like a daily task, a la like World of Warcraft, maybe. Later on in the podcast, this was actually confirmed. They asked him about dailies, and he said, yeah, daily tasks are going to be a thing. Interchange KIBA store is going to be alarmed soon. So when you unlock KIBA at some point in the near future, when you do that, it's going to have an alarm associated with it. This was requested multiple times in multiple places now that people started seeing the effect of the alarm in labs, and I love that they are doing this. Loadout presets are coming very, very soon. I don't know if that means midpoint update or if it means 0.12. We'll see. Key cards are going to become a thing. They are not live yet, but they are coming very soon. Master use key cards are going to be a thing. Whether it becomes single or multiple use, whether it's regional, like it works on multiple locks, or if it only works on one specific lock, I think that they're going to have a lot of options with this to play with. They're adding a big military base. It's possible that it even contains stationary gun placements. Oh boy. Tarkov companion app is being developed so you can access your stash on your phone. I would love to see them also have this ability to access the flea market. That would be pretty crazy. There was talk of destructible buildings possibly being implemented much, much later. He sounded like this was maybe like a stretch goal, but it would be really cool to see somebody RPG the side of a building and have it blow out, kind of like, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Relockable doors for keyed doors is going to be a thing. And in the instance of like key cards, you could walk in, close the door behind you, and the door would automatically lock. Storyline tasks. Obviously this game has kind of like this main story driven content, and then there's kind of like these side offshoot tasks. He said that the storyline tasks will be like kind of an end game thing and end of development cycle, I think is what he meant. But there's obviously going to be a lot of side tasks like the cult. They plan on putting together or putting in an editor so you can fly around the map in single player, like in an observer mode, and make cutscenes. Now, this I would also like to see implemented for kind of like what broadcasters do for PUBG casting, where you'd be able to kind of have this free-floating invisible camera to like watch engagements and stuff. Like, the spectator mode would be amazing. Streets of Tarkov was mentioned, said that the map is going to be huge. Likely will be a 2 scav boss map. Also said that there's going to be implementation of UN squads with sniper teams. Sounds like there's going to be a faction system that's going to be dynamic based on your own play history and how you interact with those factions. Like, if you kill a squad of UN troops, the UN may send a squad to find you in another map when you load in at a later point in time. The more you do, the more they work against you, etc. Crazy, crazy stuff. Weapon ballistics is going to get worked on, shooting through surfaces, etc. Out of raid healing. Internal bleeds, for instance, will be something that's real. Different med kits will have different things inside of them to heal or cure certain ailments. They're going to create a mode possibly for an extended raid, quote unquote, where you would go through multiple locations in succession, like factory to customs to woods, like one raid after the other. Different locations being linked together on the map that we have right now. He mentioned dynamic extractions, like using a flare gun or GPS locator. There was also talk about other uses for these flare guns and GPS locators, like being able to call these PMC bot raiders now that we're running into, but instead of fighting you, now they work with you and try to achieve some kind of a goal. That would be ridiculous. There was leaks about binoculars. They're going to add 4 types of binoculars, 3 types of different compasses, and thermal goggles so that you have, like thermal vision as opposed to like NV scopes or like what the Reaper has, because the Reaper's infrared, but it's not like thermal profiles, right? The talk of the compass, somebody asked, what if it just popped up on your screen? Now, I don't really like the idea of having like this UI compass just kind of coming up into like a heads-up display unless there's like a specific type of gear maybe that you're using for that. Then it's fine if you have like augmented reality or something. I mean, we're talking like near future. AR is working. It's starting to become a thing. I guess we'll see. But it should be something that you use, I think. 2019, he said that several different maps may be stitched together into a much larger map, which will be very interesting. Every single map stitched together, he said, then becomes DayZ. So it might be too big, but I thought that the main idea was that the game was supposed to become like this giant persistent world. I don't really know what's going on here. Maybe it's going to be regionalized. Maybe they're kind of like reevaluating that. I don't know. So maybe not one giant persistent world at this point like what was in the original vision. I don't know. He said that these locations, it's possible that in the future they could get up to 30 to maybe even 60 players as these larger maps are stitched together. But obviously the networking is going to be the hard part for that. He mentioned that there's a new book about Tarkov lore coming out very soon. Not sure on the English translation, but that would be really cool to see. Very soon they are adding even more detailed anti-aliasing, and ladder climbing, which was requested, is something that he said is definitely planned. But with rendering and LOD stuff, it's an issue. They're working on it, but it's not going to be in the near future. Okay. Next category, a VoIP. EFT is something that you can play solo, but it is a team-based game, according to Nikita. Nikita would love to see random teams being created. People mentioning things about VoIP and, you know, younger kids, whatever, kind of being the people that are on the mic, like in Fortnite. Nikita said the target market for Tarkov is around 30 plus years of age. A lot of people are scared about there being a bunch of 5-year-olds, you know, kind of like chiming in, being like, hey, right? But he said that that's not really the case. Okay, then we move on to community PSA. So he had a lot to say about like the development team and what they're working on and all of that. He said EFT is a unique project in terms of testing. Nikita says he feels like Tarkov has much more body and form than it had before. It's time to make a final big push for content so that they can really shape the world. I'd have to personally agree with him here. The game has grown up a lot in 2018. It's not as far as long as I or we probably would have liked, but the game has grown considerably, especially with this latest release. It really feels like Tarkov has started to come into its own with the development of labs. People want the product here and now because they've paid for it, but it's an early access beta, etc., etc. Then there was a joke about instead of they're making like a play button on the launcher, it becomes a test button, which I thought was a little cheeky. Nikita says that they're an open studio and they want to be able to talk with the community and want to be communicative with the player base via the community managers, etc. So please reach out. He reiterated and drove this home multiple times, and he said, especially the haters, come and talk to us. We want to talk to you guys through the adequate channels. Now, reading into this a little bit, I've got to say that my personal experience with this is a little bit more disagreeable than what Nikita is saying here, unless this is a new development in terms of what they're trying to do for community outreach. I myself have not felt as though they have been the most receptive to stuff that I tried to involve them in when I was still considered staff. It could just be because I was so low on the totem pole, I didn't really have anybody's ear. But as I would bring up bugs and issues and saying like, hey guys, this really needs to get adjusted and that kind of stuff, the stuff that I got in return was some pretty severe resistance from community managers, etc., that were kind of like, they don't care. Now, I don't want to believe that that's true. It's very, very possible that this has now changed with the recent developments in the drama as of late. So I would hope that they're being a little bit more open. He then thanked the content creators that have been streaming and creating content surrounding the game and that he feels extremely grateful for that. I feel like this last couple of messages was kind of for guys like, you know, maybe myself, but more like Devil Dog and Big Fry, regarding all of the critical information surrounding the developments of late, especially regarding Aroctic, right? My hope is that through all of the recent drama, it was a learning experience for them that they could, would, and can move on from. Now, obviously, there's this pending issue of the licensing stuff, and I hope that they're able to navigate those waters too. I would really like to see this game succeed. Whatever. Okay. Nikita said that he's glad that there's a lot of people out there that see the progress in the game and they like it because he's creating the game that he wants. They're working up through New Year's Eve and they're going to go on a bit of a break on and after New Year's Day. Starting tomorrow, as a reminder, the game is 25% off for 10 days with bonus keys, etc., should your friends decide to buy or upgrade. They said that they want bug reports and crash reports. Please don't forget to send them. They want them. Features that have been mentioned by Nikita and the dev team that were marked upon as soon, or things like the Unity engine changes being planned for are inside of the next 6 months. Not 100% certain, but planned. Unity 2018 move to into 2019 is not as simple as a button press. Graphics won't automatically improve, but the in-house effect, once they switch, will improve a lot of functionality and optimize a lot of things, which is something they said in the last podcast. Okay, on to flea markets and trading. Dynamic trading has not been turned back on yet. I know that there's rumor and people think that it has. It has not. But they want to turn it back on soon. He said that the dynamic economy in EVE Online, which he loves and has mentioned multiple times, was written by, he believes, an economics professor, and it's hard to mimic, but they're working on it as best they can. It's very hard balancing all of the stuff that they have between like the number of mods and the options, the pricing of those, the economic balance, etc. They're taking into account all of these things that the community says and what they see, etc. Items being bought out from traders was talked about. He said it's hard to counteract bots buying out specific items, but they're working on it. Said that there will be some rebalancing done very, very early in the new year. And the idea was to move. Now, this seemed counterintuitive to what was said last podcast, but I could have or may have gotten some misinterpretation of it. But he said that the idea is to move to a barter-only system and remove reliance on money as much. So this actually sounds canon to what had been said all the way up through till the last podcast, where it sounded like that was contradictory. But now it seems like, you know, it's kind of following in with this idea of moving away from money. Regarding the hideout is planned for 0.12. The question was asked, will EOD owners have improved functionality inside of the hideout? Nikita said you might have a small warehouse kind of thing as a starting off point, but everyone will be able to level it up. It's just a case of building, essentially. There will be some way to level your passive skills inside of the hideout as well, but it will take resources and time to do that inside of your hideout. Okay, now on to community requests. So this is stuff that was requested or asked about from the people inside of the podcast, the content creators. Deficit system was talked about, like a week without new AKs being restocked. Shortage of water, shortage of juice. Nikita loved that idea. Nikita said the main goal was to, make the game the way that the community ultimately wants the game to be made. There was also a question in this about not being able to loot dog tags, because that was in the patch notes. You wouldn't be able to loot the dog tags of your friends. It was aligned right in there. Nikita said, no, you can, but they're just not worth very much. But then he went on to say that they actually increased the prices that the traders are willing to pay for them a little bit more. So, trying to find a happy medium in it, I guess. There was a question of being able to prestige instead of wipe later on in the game during a live release. Because they said once the game goes live, there won't be wipes anymore. This really wasn't a question that was answered. I think it's kind of just something that they'd like to see, more of a statement that was made. The question of takedowns, like silent kills and takedowns, which if you remember way back when, there was this video that was released, trailer for the game, where it showed somebody sneaking up behind another player and stabbing them from the back. They asked if that was a thing that was going to be added, as well as flavor stuff like sitting down around a campfire with your buddies. Nikita confirmed that stuff was going to happen. Said that, but he did say that cinematic interactions being done would be really cool, but that's something that will have to be more of a cosmetic add-on, possibly way down in the future, because obviously, the cinematic animation of stabbing somebody and, you seeing that from some kind of like cinematic angle is going to be a little bit more of a flavor add-on, right? Dev team making videos to showcase certain additions was asked. He said that takes a lot of time and resources that the team doesn't really have, but possibly in the future. If I may, there are a lot of content creators that I'm sure would be willing to help you with that. Why not employ some of the guys that you say that you love their content of? That's all I'm saying. Replay system. He said it's possible, but he put a twist on it. Maybe if you mounted a GoPro on your Fast MT, you could get a replay from your raid then. Recording in-game footage might become an in-game mechanic. Now, I'd like to take this a step further. What if you're the guy recording it and you get killed? Does the guy that kills you get to loot your GoPro and then watch from the angle of him shooting you from your vantage point? That would be amazing. Regarding breaking down doors, planned, but we don't necessarily announce it. People just start breaking a door down suddenly after a patch, and suddenly you realize it's live. Sounds like something they want to implement as a surprise. Okay, regarding game issues, grass is getting rework in 0.12 because a lot of the stuttering is being caused by the animations of the grass. Also caused GPU, or said that they were doing GPU and RAM optimizations. For instance, right now in the game, there's an auto cleaner option that you can turn on with a checkbox in the game. Don't know if you knew that, but it's there. Regarding ergonomics, they said that ergonomics didn't feel like it was really affecting anything. Nikita said that the gun recenters faster with higher ergo. Maybe it's just not something that they're noticing, but he was like, what do you mean? They're looking into the ragdoll animations and clipping through things awkwardly. And then he said there was a question about helmets and stopping rounds and them being too strong. I don't really feel that personally, but he said that the Vulcan 5 helmet's the only realistic helmet that can stop higher caliber rounds, although a lot of helmets can currently prevent penetration. Nikita said that you have to find a balance, obviously, for it being a game. Okay, that's the entirety of the podcast, as short of a duration of time as I could possibly make it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you later. Peace.